It was about the 1300s BC when Ramesses I, say hello, Ramesses, had a son 2 years after he became pharaoh. His son's name was Seti. Say hello, Seti.
Hello.
He was Seti the first. Below we have a sculpture that honors Seti. Check that out. Egypt's control over the areas had declined somewhat before Seti I came to power, but he led his Egyptian armies out to increase. When Seti had a son, when Seti was pharaoh.
Wait, am I his son?
He had a son whom he called Ramesses. When Ramesses was just 10 years old, Seti made him a captain over a lot of his armies. It's probable that Ramesses, who he now called Ramesses II, didn't actually lead those armies, but he was given an awful lot of power, which it seems might have gone to his head. Because eventually, when Ramesses II came to power and became pharaoh, he made great columns and monuments to honor himself. Archaeologists have found so many monuments that Ramesses II built to himself that he eventually called him Ramesses the Great. Egypt's main rival in the early years of Ramesses' reign were the Hittites. The Hittites were increasing in power and extending their control south from their home territory, which is now Turkey, into Syria and into other areas. Ramesses II led an army north along the coast of Canaan and Lebanon and met the Hittite force at Kadesh. While the 12 Israelite spies were exploring Canaan, the Israelites camped at a place called Kadesh. This is the place where the Egyptian and Hittite armies met at a different place in time. We've learned from detailed records that the Egyptians kept during the battle that leaders from both the Egyptian and the Hittite army showed great skill during the conflict. At one point, the Egyptian army began to lose the battle, but Ramesses II bravely fought until they were evenly matched, at which point they called a truce and went their separate ways. In fact, their truce might have been stop fighting. In fact, their truce might have been an example of some of the first truces or allies ever in the history of the world. Guys, you're the first allies ever.
Oh.
That meant that even though originally the Hittites and the Egyptians didn't get along,
Put this on there.
they promised that if other nations attacked them, they would stand up to help defend them. The Egyptians fought several other nations from time to time. The most serious conflict was against the Libyans, who tried to take control of the Nile Delta. The Egyptians pushed the Libyans back to their home country, and the Hittites came to help.
It's not time.
Egypt had the most power in its history during the reign of Ramesses II. During the reign of Ramesses II, the Egyptians worshipped many false gods. Ramesses built several temples dedicated to them. The most famous are two that are carved into a cliff. Ramesses II finished the Temple of Seti and his father's funeral temple at Thebes. He dedicated the larger temple to himself. Outside its entrance, pictured over here, are the 4 statues of Ramesses II, each about 60 feet tall. The head and trunk of one lie broken on the ground. The temple extends 185 feet into a cliff. Ramesses dedicated a second plot to his wife, Nefertari. Nefertari was one of the many wives that Ramesses II had. Statues of Ramesses II and Nefertari stand 35 feet high in the tomb. These 2 temples were unknown to scholars until they were discovered in 1813. Because Ramesses was held in such high regard, 9 other pharaohs used his name, which is important to note. The Ramesses that's referred to in Scripture when Joseph comes to Egypt is not the same as Ramesses the Great.